The idea is to catch the trend between the students and the young professionals.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, my potty people? This is Corey Boatwright. I am the host of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters and the founder of Real Estate Investing Profits. I hope you are having a phenomenal day. We have Mr. Josh Weidman with us today. And this guy, I tell you what, he's out of Philadelphia, does some stuff in Maryland as well. And he is a turnkey investor, and he is going to go through some really interesting stories on this interview. And I think you're going to absolutely dig it. So get set up, get a place where you can take some notes. We'll always put these in our show notes, but make sure that you are listening carefully to pick up the nuggets. By the way, if you haven't downloaded our Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, why not? Right? You can simply text the word profit to 38470, 38470, and it'll automatically send you a link, and you can download the Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide. If you're interested in wholesaling and learning coaching and want some coaching that way, please go ahead and give us a call. You can go to coryscoaching.com, coryscoaching.com, CORYS coaching.com. Fill out a quick little application on there, and we will contact you to see if we are a good fit. All right. I know you're going to dig this interview. Josh is an absolute rock star, and you're going to pick up some great nuggets from what he's doing out there in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. All righty. Here we go. Here is Mr. Josh Weidman. What is going on, Josh?
Corey, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I love it.
Right. That's good. So how is everything going out there? What are you in Philadelphia and Maryland? That's where you're doing a lot of your investing, right?
Most of it's in Philly, but city of brotherly love, it's a fantastic place to be. This place is blowing up.
Right. That's awesome, man. So I'm excited to have you on here. Obviously, you've got some things that are rocking and rolling out there. I'd like to ask you a couple of our standard questions, but what area are you more or less an investor expert in? Are you a wholesaler? You're a fix and flipper? What area are you an expert in right now, Josh?
Sure. Well, I got my start in wholesaling. Did a couple hundred wholesale deals. I've flipped a bunch of properties, built and sold a management company. Right now, I have a turnkey investment company where we combine sourcing properties, strategic renovations, leasing, and then managing the property. Yeah, that's it.
Got it. Yeah. So, well, I mean, at the end of the day, wholesaling is kind of like either stick there or you kind of start there and move on, right? And there's really no right answer. I know many people are completely successful doing both. So what made you want to get involved with real estate investing in the first place?
So this is kind of a funny story. When I was 16, I saw this amazing infomercial on TV, and you probably saw it growing up too. The Carlton Sheets No Money Down system, right? And I saw this
ads, and you could get passive income. Just assume the loan. Assume the loan.
Assume the loan. I mean, I bought it. I bought it at 16, paid the $100, whatever, mailed out to me, and I dove into this thing, and I watched all the videos, and I read through all the material. I was so hot and ready to go, and I was 16 with no money. And, no matter what people tell you, no money down doesn't mean no money.
No. Right.
So, like so many real estate investors getting started, I bought the course and threw it in the back of my closet and then forgot about it for a bunch of years. And, that was my start. That was my introduction to just this idea of getting a whole bunch of people together to pay my mortgage. And,
right. Well, was he one of your biggest influences then? Was Carlton Sheets in the beginning?
Kind of. So he was my introduction.
Right.
But really, the biggest influence that I had was Vina Jones-Cox.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so I thought I was going to
do short sales later on.
Well, I didn't get much into short sales with her, but I mean, she was my introduction to wholesaling. And originally, I bought 3 houses to flip with 3 partners, all of them in subprime markets, right before the market crashed.
Got it.
And so, I got a call from a guy that was a friend of mine, told me he was in foreclosure, went out to the house, put the thing under contract. And at the time, I had no money. I didn't know what the heck to do with the thing, but it was a great neighborhood. It was a great deal. And she was kind of my introduction to wholesaling, kind of fumbled into it, made $30,000 in the first wholesale deal. And I was like, this I can do. So
that was nice.
She was, exactly. I mean, it was a catalyst to make me realize that, it wasn't just this pie in the sky infomercial type idea of making money in real estate. It can happen. It's a reality. If you hustle, you can get it done.
That's interesting. So she was one of your biggest influences starting out. Did you have a breaking point? It was a place where you kind of said enough's enough because you weren't a real estate investor, kind of before you were a real estate investor, before you got to that point. Did you have that point where you're like, I just need to go all in, or did you kind of gradually get there?
I'm not kind of a gradual guy. Like I'm all in or all out.
0 or 100.
That's exactly right.
Right.
So I had this construction company that failed. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. I was great in sales, terrible in business. And so I found myself selling water purifiers door to door. And it was like I remember the moment, there's 6 inches of snow on the ground in November. It's like an early snowfall. And I'm walking up and down in dress pants and, a dress coat, and I'm freezing. Not making any money. I mean, how much can you make selling water purifiers,
Right.
So
right.
I looked around and thought, man, I can make no money doing something I want to do. Like, what the heck am I doing this? And so I went home. I told my wife, I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to get into real estate investing.
Right.
And she was like, great. So how much does it pay?
Yeah.
And, it took another 6-8 months before I made any money. And, there were some times when I second guessed myself and she second guessed what we were doing. But at the end of the day, it was the best decision I ever made.
Right.
Second best.
Yeah. Right. She can appreciate that part.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Well, we talk about what would be your profit master investing strategy and kind of what's been the strategy that's impacted the bottom line the most. And this could be maybe a door knocking strategy or a direct mail marketing strategy, or, maybe you're calling direct to seller with an calling company, something that's really working well. What is that investing strategy that's just knocking it out of the park for you right now that you could share?
Well, it's not so much a marketing strategy. It's more an overall strategy of investment, and that is looking into developing markets. So Philadelphia is a really interesting place in that because it's so old, there are different areas of the city that have just been neglected for so long that when the neighborhood starts to go through gentrification, it tends to happen fairly quickly. And
what's that fairly quickly? Is that a 6-month process or a 3-month process or a year?
Well, okay, so I'm looking long term.
Right.
So when I say fairly quickly, let's say 5 to 10 years for full gentrification.
Right, right. Okay.
So my master strategy is more looking at these areas, and then gentrification tends to start with the artists. They go into the area. It's a cool neighborhood. It's really great.
Yep.
And then the students move in, and then you've got some young professionals that are transitioning from the students, and then you have families. By the time you get to the families, it's a mature neighborhood. So the idea is to catch the trend between the students and the young professionals, so that even if you're buying at market value, the rent rates and the neighborhood is changing so drastically that you can make cash flow, and in a couple years you're double or tripling your money. And it's a safe investment. So a lot of people look at this as like an appreciation play, and it's not. It's more as the neighborhood matures and goes through this transition.
Right.
It really comes to a head.
That's true. Yeah. Well, and you could really start noticing that gentrification process. I mean, in Oklahoma City, we've seen it, in different Asian markets. There's been a a big thing like where people come in and they start doing all of these kind of different projects that you start noticing a kind of a theme almost to that area, right? And
that's right.
There's another part of Oklahoma City that where there's a real artsy district, you know, and so they start to do these upscale restaurants with these lofts, and you start to notice some of those things too. And so, yeah, you can, if you start noticing more or less that theme starting to come in to that area, you probably put some heat points on those houses, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly right. And I mean, noticing market trends
sure
is an incredible part of investing. I mean, you can see 6 months, 8 months, a year down the road, and if you can see where the market's trending, you can get in at very low price points and get out really high.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's really cool to be able to notice that on the development side. So the turnkey side often also lets you see some of the things that other folks don't really notice. And one of those things for us, for example, would be a wholesaling. We're primarily wholesalers, but not that we don't own properties and things too, but most people don't look, for example, the zoning, for example. So whenever wholesalers, they wholesale things, they don't even check out the zoning. So, that's a mistake. That could cost you a 6-figure mistake potentially.
Oh yeah.
So I would think in Philadelphia, especially when you get some of those deals, I mean, the zoning is probably the first thing you start to notice.
Well, you know what's really interesting? There's an investor in Philadelphia that in the course of a year, they did something like $7 million in rehabs just by targeting one zoning type in developing neighborhoods, because they knew if they bought that zoning type, they could put condos in those things.
So true.
Very simply, and it tripled the value of the property.
So smart.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Zoning is a huge deal.
I love it, man. So what was one of the big challenges that you faced in real estate investing? Because it's not all peaches and ice cream, right? I mean, what was one challenge, Josh, and how did you get through it? Because those are always the greatest stories, in my opinion.
All right. So my background, like I said, I came from retail sales, selling windows and siding. Okay. So my introduction to construction was, okay, you got 3 payments. There's a third up front, a third when you're halfway through, and a third when you're done. So the first large rehab I did, it was about an $85,000 rehab, and I figured a third. Why not?
Right.
Well, when the contractor walked away from the job, and there wasn't a third of the work done, I ended up, it was ugly. It was real ugly. Oh my gosh, really ugly.
Was that a kind of what dollar amount was that so we can feel the pain even more?
It was about $30,000.
Okay.
And
right.
I mean, it wasn't 100, thankfully, but it was, this is the beginning of my career.
Those smaller amounts, right? And I know,
right.
I mean, in relative speaking, it could have been millions of dollars, right? So it's best to learn,
at the time,
in the smaller amounts.
Well, and at the time, it could have been $1 million.
Sure.
I mean,
it probably felt like $1 million at one point.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so bad. So I tried to get this guy on the phone. I'm calling him, and he's not picking up the phone. So I go to his house, and he lived in a duplex, and I'm knocking on the door, and nobody's answering. Finally, the other tenant opens up the window. She said, "What are you doing?" "I'm trying to reach so-and-so." She said, "Oh yeah, he moved out last week." Yeah. And I'm going, and it's a sinking feeling in my stomach, and it was tough.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there was enough profit in the project that we could absorb the loss. We ended up having to, I had 2 partners in the deal. We ended up having to go back to the investor who put up the money and tell him what happened, give him a solution. We found a legitimate contractor, finished the project, sold it, and didn't make a ton of money, but we made some money on the project. And, life goes on. It was a painful learning experience, but it was one that I'm glad it happened on a project like that and not one where, it was a real skinny margin and could have broke me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I think I like about learning lessons, right, is that hopefully whenever you go through it, not only did you learn what you didn't want to do, you also learn what you want to do next. And, potentially some of those things that we go through they can actually be the best things because they can teach you the most, right?
Yep.
As you move forward, especially if you build off of that thing and you want to get it. Entrepreneurs tend to be pretty resilient and challenge driven, right? So it's almost like you kick me down once, you're not going to kick me down twice. And, so that's cool that, you get a chance to learn from that. So if you would say maybe what is one of the single greatest lessons that you think that you've learned to get you to where you are today, Josh?
So this is a hard question. The bottom line, though, I think it's got to be think long term. I mean, the longer I'm involved, I mean, it's got to be the key to what you do. If you're thinking short term, you're thinking about the money that goes in your pocket in the next 2 weeks. You're thinking about how can I generate income? That's a really important part of business. But if you're focused on that all the time, you lose sight of so many huge opportunities, right. And you're always counting dollars instead of counting stacks. I mean, it's a huge difference.
Massive difference. That's good. Yeah. I wrote that down. We're going to put these things here in the show notes like we always do, but I really like that one. So if you had to start all over again, what would you change? And it was maybe some advice for somebody new getting into the market right now.
So I do some real estate consulting with people that are just getting in the business. And one common theme that I find with a lot of new investors is that they'll buy the course. They'll go to the weekend seminar, right, and nothing happens.
Nothing.
Right. I mean, literally, they forget about it.
I call it the church camp syndrome, right? They get excited, rah, and they come back to real life, and life hits them, and all the responsibilities and time and all that other stuff, and it's tough.
Well, and really, my sole advice is hire a coach. I mean, that's what I would have done to do it all over again. I mean, there's in my office, we're kind of have an incubator feel. We've got some other businesses that are real estate related right here on our floor. And one of the guys is a 28-year-old. The guy is a wholesaler in this market. He was really smart. When he was in his early 20s, he hired a coach.
Sure.
The guy's making 7 figures wholesaling deals right now. Jeez. And I mean, a really intelligent guy, very exceptional guy, but a lot of that comes from hiring the right people, surrounding yourself with good people, and, have somebody to keep you accountable and make sure that you don't give a contractor $30,000 deposit and he never shows up for work. Sure. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah.
Big, huge. And whenever you hire the coach, what's great is that they're out of your particular situation, even though they've probably been at some type of situation similar, but they're not directly involved in your day to day. And so because of that different perspective and that outside, that altitude, it can open up some incredibly powerful aha moments. It can show you strategies that you just are completely oblivious to. And sometimes the best things are right in front of your face and you don't even see them. And so having the value of the coach from the third party, almost as a therapist for your real estate investing, is extremely, extremely powerful.
Well, and when you're talking about larger dollar amounts, I mean, let's face it, a lot of people, when they're just getting started, they're making as much on one deal as they made last year.
Sure.
And so when you're talking about that kind of income, there's emotion attached to it. You got to sometimes divorce yourself of that emotion just to be able to get to the core of what either the problem is or the motivation is or what the solution is to an issue. Right. And it's hard to do when you're in it.
Right. Totally. I agree with that. Totally.
Yep.
Well, what's a favorite motivational quote or business quote, something that maybe that you live by or you tell yourself every day, or maybe it's written down somewhere?
So my father was my wrestling coach growing up, and phenomenal guy. He had this poster made for me on my wall, and it's called 69 Quotes to Success. And I still have the quote, but my favorite was obstacles are those things that we see when we take our eyes off the goal.
Oh, and I like that. Ooh, that's good.
It's right. I mean, that's think about all of the things that get in your way. If you worry about them, you'll never get to where you want to be.
Right. You put all your emphasis on them.
Right. Exactly. And, I had a business coach that I worked with that his whole mantra was, think about how things can be as opposed to the problems that you've got. Don't fix problems. Think about how they can be and go towards that ideal. And really, it's the same concept. It's just focus on getting better and getting to where you want to be, and all the other things that pop up along the way, you'll handle them, move on, and you see this a lot with companies that as they expand. I mean, you have Comcast out there?
Well, we have Comcast and Cox and,
Okay. So Comcast, when they started all their expansion, they took over in all these other markets, bought out these companies. Their customer service was awful, absolutely terrible. They didn't worry about it. They just kept moving forward. And now, I mean, I don't have anything bad to say about Comcast. They're fantastic. I get a call from Verizon every other week trying to get me to change over my phone and internet. And, and it's like, no, man, I'm really happy.
Right.
And so, it's like, look, just keep your eyes on the goal, keep moving forward, do what you got to do. And we can fix the things along the way, but it doesn't mean they have to be fixed tomorrow, and that goes back to long term.
Long term.
Yeah.
I love it. And I love those two things. And that was your dad's quote?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it was his or he just put it together. It was phenomenal. It really inspires me every time I think about it.
That is. I love it, man. That's really, really powerful. Do you have any books that you recommend? Maybe one that's really made a difference or changed your life?
There's a couple. So the first is the Checklist Manifesto. It's the driest book you ever wanted to read. There's a couple stories brought in there, but it's fantastic for breaking down your business into a bunch of checklists and making sure that simple things aren't overseen. And like the one example that's in the book is that, like, in the 1970s, airline pilots, they were like celebrities. They pretty much could do whatever they wanted to do. I mean, that's why you had so many incidents of people being half drunk when they're flying a plane and, just craziness.
Right.
But as people started looking at some of the problems that we're having in the airline industry, they started implementing these checklists from everything from takeoffs to problems with the airplane.
I love it.
Everybody along the way, and it lowered the incidence of crash and problems across the board. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So anyway, great book. The other one is Outliers. Outliers, fantastic book.
Great book.
Yeah, really good. And the last is a novel, Atlas Shrugged.
Sure.
Atlas Shrugged. When I read that book, it's a 1,200-page book, and it's really dense.
Right.
First time I read it in a week. I was up till 3 a.m. reading it every night.
Wow, man, you got committed to it.
Well, it inspired me. I mean, I'm a big advocate of passion in your life. And what I saw in that book is the comparison of these people that had passion for what they were doing compared to the people that were just kind of floating along in life, and they were like dead bodies floating through space.
Sure.
Since I read that, I've tried to surround myself with other people that have passion, regardless of what the area is. It's not just business, but it's every part of your life. You surround yourself with people with passion, and you tend to find more energy and more zeal for life. It's pretty awesome.
It is really awesome. It's a pretty thick book, like you said too. It's Scott Brick?
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand. Yeah.
Yeah,
Scott Brick.
yeah.
I listen to audiobooks, and I think he's one of the narrators of it. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's awesome, man. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful book. It seemed like that thing's been out for a while. I would say in the 90s or 80s. It's been out for a while.
It's even before that. I think it was in the 1950s even. Okay. I mean, it's been around for a long time. Ayn Rand is a little bit of kook personally, but her novels are pretty awesome.
Pretty good. Yeah. Awesome, man. That is great recommendations there. So do you have any favorite mobile apps that you use, or anything in your business every day? Are you just a techie?
Yeah, I'd love to be. And this actually comes back to one of my philosophies on business is that I am afraid of the next shiny thing because I have a tendency to follow it, and unless I can see something that's going to make a major impact, I don't want to invest the time because there's going to be something else shiny next week. But for me, the best app that I use is Basecamp. Yep. And Basecamp is a project management app.
Jason Fried's a creator. He's amazing.
Yes.
The way he thinks and how they're 37 Signals is his company. I like Basecamp a lot. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we use it to track all of our construction. It allows me to stay on top of it without actually having to be in the field. And I mean, we've got a lot of rehab projects going on every time, and we've got a lot of communication with our clients. So it makes it very easy to communicate and give them updates on what's going on. It's my favorite integration. Yeah,
Basecamp's great. There is a lot of other competitors to it, but they just keep focusing on what works for them in their business. Interesting about them is that they're I think under 100 people or so, and they still have an amazing, incredible business, all driven on a continuous and defined company business model for predefined revenue. So whenever you have a defined revenue model with their continuity basically based subscription, it's really powerful. I think he talks about this pretty openly too, Jason Fried. If you look on some of his, just Google Jason Fried 37 Signals, I think you'll find some really interesting things about him. So I appreciate him as a leader in technology and the way he thinks, and I think he makes great products.
They have a fantastic book out as well. I read it 2 or 3 years ago. Rework? No, it's...
Yeah, that was it.
Unbelievable.
Reworked is it, but the one before that was his book. So he had 2 books out, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, great books.
Yes.
Do you get 8 hours of sleep a night, Josh?
So it depends on whether I'm inspired or not. I mean, that's why it's so important to me to be focused on things that I really am passionate about. But I mean, the answer is not very frequently. I've got 3 kids. My oldest is 8. My youngest is 3. They're up at 5 or 6 in the morning. I get up before they do, and I can't sleep. And not because I got crazy things in my head, but like I can't wait to get up in the morning and get started. And the morning's the best part of the day.
I love it, man. I love it. And training yourself because you got a new day. It's a new day, new thing that hasn't happened yet, and it's up to you to seize the day, right?
That's it.
And
Carpe diem, baby.
Go, seize the day. And there's amazing things that can happen. We closed on a 100K deal, and you never know who's going to make the phone call. No, you never know what's going to happen. That's what's so cool about this business. It's got a little bit of that unpredictability that says you can get a $5,000 deal today or a $100,000 deal, and you get excited about that on the business side. Also, just in general, living, just being grateful and living this beautiful thing we call life that we get so stale and complacent and stagnant on, that and we get used to it and we take things for granted. But, just being able to be grateful and excited about this thing called life, and I think is another reason to put your feet on the floor and go, man.
Well, so over the last year, there's been a handful of people that are close to me, about my age. I mean, less than 40, that have had some pretty significant cancer scares.
Yeah.
And I mean, every time I see something, my girlfriend from high school, both her husband and her 5-year-old, both were diagnosed with cancer. I mean, it makes you really, it puts a lot of things in perspective, regardless of how much money's in the bank,
true.
All the tough things that are happening in life. If you've got your health and your family, I mean, we're way ahead.
When I got diagnosed with thyroid cancer, back in 2012, man, and
wow.
It was really a life-defining moment, and things changed radically since then till today.
Yeah.
I mean, radically have changed. My relationships with my family, my relationships with my friends, just my perspective on life. And it's funny because it doesn't have to get there in order to get your attention. But often as an entrepreneur, we're driving, we're going so hard, and we don't look up until something says, wait a minute, you have to look up or you potentially could die. Like, and it's so funny because we're so used to having so many things hit us. Like you said, you know, when we're just moving through them. I have this rhino. You can see this right here. I got this rhino on my desk. You see these two rhinos right here? And they're a reminder, dude, a reminder of every day. You know, you've got to rhino through all these different challenges. Well, you know, you don't take sometimes to look up and see, like, why am I doing it? Asking the question, why am I doing it? Why am I making all this? You know, if one of your goals is to make some money, why do you want to make your money? If one of your goals is to have freedom, why do you want to have that freedom? You know, if one of your goals is to have a house out in the Hamptons or Hawaii, or why do you want to do that? And so getting deeper into your whys really, you know, has to do with being intentional. And as an entrepreneur, and I'll raise my hand on this. I mean, I wasn't very intentional. I was just moving through things. Can you relate with that? Like, you can just move through things?
Absolutely. And, you know, I find myself, it's interesting you brought up money. So most people get into real estate because they're attracted by the money.
Right.
And nobody knows what they're supposed to do with it when they get it.
Right. Like,
you know, I mean, exactly. That's why all these lotto winners go broke. That's true. They go broke and they end up in jail, or, you know, their family falls apart.
True. Right.
'Cause what people really want is the freedom to be able to build a lifestyle.
Right.
And I mean, myself included, we all get so worried and bogged down with the day to day that oftentimes we're chasing this money so that we can have the lifestyle, and we forget about the lifestyle. And it's ridiculous.
So true.
It's really insane. But, you know, having a purpose, like you said, I mean, purposefully living changes everything. I mean, you really evaluate the time that you're putting in. What are we trying to accomplish here? Really? Yeah, I want to make $1 million. Great. What are you going to do with it? What's the purpose of the $1 million? It's just a bunch of paper, not cloth anyway, with a bunch of dead presidents on it. You know, I mean, It's not real.
Right.
And, purposeful living is so important.
I like that.
The why is huge.
Purposeful living. Yeah. I like that. Do you have a morning routine?
You would think so. Kind of. So I like most people, I jump out of bed, jump in the shower, grab a cup of coffee. My commute to my office is an hour.
Wow.
And
it's got some time to think.
Well, and frankly, it's an hour, but it's not that far. You wind it through the city. But I come in with, dead silence. And that ends up being my time to kind of reflect on what my day looks like, to check I make goals on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And, everybody does the year-end goals, right?
The checklist manifesto.
Right. But I mean, if you break it down into daily goals, really, there's only a few things you have to do every day. And so I try to identify those really important things that I want to get done, why I want to do them. And so that when I get to the office, usually nobody's here. It's fantastic, and I can knock those things out before anybody walks in the day. And so, those are the kind of things. Like, so my morning routine is wake up early. If I'm going to have a productive day, I'm waking up early, get the mundane stuff out of the way, and then take some time just to think and center myself, and kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so it's interesting. Sometimes I speak with folks that have like a very rigid, morning routine, and they have to do it a certain way. And other times some are just like, I just get up and I do spend a little quiet time. And I don't think there's a right answer to that either. I think you have to be in touch with what makes you most productive and intentional, right? And productivity is way different than just being busy. Confusing those two can cause a lot of damage in your life.
Yep.
So get some clarity on that. But, I think just understanding how you tick, what makes you productive, what makes you intentional, what focus on things. That's one thing you got to tap into, right?
Well, and you know what is so I've tried to be a different person before. Like I've tried to fight the tide, and one of my partners here is very, very regimented. I mean,
right.
That he is on Bigger Pockets every morning from X time to Y time. Every morning you can set a clock to it. I've tried going down that road. It's not me. And that's fine. Doesn't mean I'm any worse of a person,
fine. Right.
But a lot of what I learned in business is about being self-aware, being honest with yourself about what you're good at, what you're not good at. Feed the stuff you're good at, cut the other stuff out, and don't try to be somebody you're not. And if you can do that, it's a win all the way around.
Well, speaking about that, what are you most grateful for?
Definitely my family. I mean, I've got an amazing wife that I couldn't have asked for a better partner in my life. She's amazing. I got 3 great kids. I got amazing parents, a great sister, awesome in-laws. I mean, so many people I know have conflict within their family, and that is something that I'm just tremendously grateful for. And
wow.
It's a blessing every day. It's incredible.
That is incredible, man. We talked about this. I mean, that's a blessing too. I mean, that's some people are listening. They're like, man, I wish I had that. Like, that's a point of conflict, right? But even though there's sometimes this point of conflict, there's always a reason to be grateful, right? If you just got to look around and find one. And often you can be focused on all the things that are going, quote, wrong, which is a perspective often in your life, and looking at the obstacles instead of looking at what you want, which is the goal and where you're headed and your target, right? So
Well, on that note, so Tony Robbins, he had a special on Netflix. I don't know if you saw it
Yeah, I'm not your guru.
The best line that I heard in that whole thing is that if you're going to blame your parents for the bad things in your life, you have to give them the credit for the good things too.
So true.
It's not one-sided. I mean, like you're saying, look, we all come from a messed up childhood. All of us. We have things that, our parents do the best they can, and they're flawed people just like we are. They do the best they can. And I mean, I've come to grips with, I'm going to screw my kids up. Like, I hope it doesn't happen, but I'm doing the best I can.
Right.
That's it. And, and if you can be grateful for what you've gotten out of each situation, good, bad, or indifferent, it's just a better life.
Totally true. And you talked about when you would recommend hiring a coach and said how important really that is. Would you recommend when someone's getting started to hire a coach right away, or would you wait, get their feet wet, or when would you recommend that?
Sure. I think it depends on what you're getting into as far as real estate. So if you're starting as a wholesaler, there is a lot of great free content, free information. Mess up your first deal. I mean, get your first deal out of the way, screw it up, look like an idiot, whatever.
Don't be afraid. Just overcome that fear.
Exactly. If you're investing money in a property and you're buying it, or you're, for a rental or a flip, I would recommend hiring a coach right away, because there's a real loss. I mean, I know people that have had catastrophic financial loss from one bad investment that it takes them decades to recover from. And, nobody wants that. And so I would recommend, in that type of situation, get involved with a coach, somebody that's either local or that is really successful, that can read you through the process.
Totally agree. If you had to summarize it, why do you do what you do? What gets you up in the morning? Passion?
Passion. I mean, I love designing marketing plans that bring in leads. I love it when I can say, oh man, this worked or didn't. I love getting leads, like you're talking about, the $100,000 deal or like the $5,000 deal.
The data, right? You like getting the data and creating the funnels, and you're like the creator. Yeah, you're the creator, right?
But I also love watching a flip come together and saying, we had a project that I walked through yesterday. It took 90% of the project to get to the point where we can put all the finishes together. That last week, it's amazing. All of a sudden, it looks like a finished product is really coming together. It's beautiful like that. I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm really passionate about real estate. I'm really passionate about my job. I'm really passionate about just life in general. I mean, it's great. Like if I could go broke tomorrow, and as long as I've got, I got my family, I got my health, we live in the greatest country in the history of the world.
100%.
The most opportunity that anybody has ever had to
Amen
succeed.
To that. Yes.
And what's not to be excited about? Like that's what keeps me going.
I appreciate you being so frank about that. There are some people listening that struggle with that, right? And sometimes it just, you meet some people and you're kind of like, man, that guy he's just so up all the time. He's positive. He's just, everything seems like it's going right, but then, you have some other folks that are not so optimistic and maybe a little bit more pessimistic, or maybe they struggle on finding that passion because of maybe something's happened in the past, Josh, or maybe something they're going through in the current situation right now. What is something that you would do? Because I can get this from you, man, just from the video of that energy that you're putting off, right? And I know some people are like, I want that, right? But I don't know how to get it, or what can I do to get a little bit of that? So what would you tell those folks?
It's a decision. I mean, it is a conscious decision that you have to make. So if you look at the history of mankind, right? The United States is the richest nation in the history of the world. I mean, think about this. People that are on government assistance, they've got a TV. Most of the time they have a car.
Yeah.
They have a warm place to live.
So true.
If you've got a roof over your head, you eat 2 or 3 meals a day, you can see a doctor when you want. I mean, we're better off than 90% of the world's population right there.
Oh, I think even 99% of the world. I mean, I think we're in the top 10. If you own a car, I think you're either in the top 10 or top 5% of the richest people in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've not always been wealthy. Like, I mean, to be candid, I had a business a loss in the beginning of this year. It cost me about $400,000.
Yeah.
It was a bad loss. I could dwell on that and it would sink me. But the truth is, I go home and I still got kids that run to the door to give me a hug. It's all about looking around you and seeing all of the blessings that we have. I mean, I'm not a religious guy, but I'm a believer. And I look at, you see the stuff that Christ went through, that the disciples went through. I mean, these are like the number one, they're like the top level Christians, and they're getting murdered and crucified and
getting hammered, right? They're getting hammered, right.
Exactly. I mean, in every aspect.
Yeah.
Life is a lot longer than we ever than our reality will let us realize sometimes. When we get bogged down in difficult times, it's rough. But when you look around and you realize all the small blessings, it's incredible. I mean, it's overwhelming. And that's what keeps me positive. That's what gets me up every day. That's what makes me so passionate about what I do, is that I have the opportunity to improve my life every day. And that's not necessarily financially related. Like, this is life in general. Like, there's so many opportunities to be successful humans and help people around us. Like, that's a big deal.
I think you summed it up really well, which is a conscious decision to focus on the blessings.
Yeah.
And not all the struggles and not all the heartache and everything that else is going on. Even right now, as we speak, some of the horrible things are going on as we speak, but having a conscious decision to focus on the blessings, what's around you, what you're grateful for, what you can affect, kind of that starfish that you can pick up and affect that life. And so, man, that's really incredible. I love the perspective. Thanks for sharing all of these awesome tips and just being candid on this. I love it. And what's the best way if someone can get in touch with you if they want to, get in touch, make a connection, something like that?
Sure, absolutely. So, if they're interested in investing in Philadelphia real estate, you can go to realestatetheeasyway.com and give you an overview of our model. You can also we've got a bunch of training videos for all kinds of real estate investing at facebook.com/TCS Investments.
Okay.
Or they can reach out to me. Shoot me an email. It's joshw@tcsmgt.com. I love helping people succeed. I love talking to people about real estate. So feel free to contact me.
I can feel it, man. And where are you at with your market right now? How many deals did you say you've done, the last 12 months, or kind of what's your target for next year?
We're at, we did 100 and, my math is terrible. It's 138 deals in the last 12 months.
And those are mostly fix and flips?
They're mostly turnkey deals.
Turnkey
flips, okay. Yeah. I do flips personally. I don't do a ton. I mean, I think we did 7 in the last 12 months. I'm more focused right now on the turnkey aspect of our business and on building a pool of rentals internally. So, that's kind of where I'm at. But I mean, our market is really phenomenal. Philadelphia is a really cool place. I feel like every month I drive into the city and the skyline changes because there's another skyscraper going up. It's just a cool place.
It's awesome, man. Yeah, you got some cool history there for sure.
Yeah, sure. It's pretty exciting.
Awesome, man. Exciting. So definitely thank you for being on here, man. I'm looking forward to getting the show notes all set up and getting this out there. So thanks again, Josh.
Awesome.
Appreciate you.
Corey, thank you so much.
Yeah, man, appreciate you. Make sure that you're on the next Real Estate Investing Profit Masters podcast. We're going to be bringing another expert on here to give you some of the best tips, strategies for making your real estate investing go to the moon. So God bless you, man. See you later, Ben. Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.